Let me tell you about Leo Mercer. 35 years old, senior DevSecOps engineer, and the undisputed structural backbone of OmniStream Logistics, a massive, multi-billion-dollar global supply chain platform that automates the routing, manifest clearing, and real-time tracking for over 14,000 cargo containers, fulfillment centers, and freight lines across 40 different countries. What the slick, power-tripping corporate executives at OmniStream completely forgot was that Leo didn't just maintain their system, he built it. Every single line of the core proprietary routing matrix was his. And when he was hired as an independent consultant 3 years ago, he didn't sign their corporate onboarding packet. He handed them his own contract, which their HR department signed without looking, because they thought he was just another desperate freelancer. And on a random Tuesday afternoon, a newly appointed, hyper-aggressive chief human resources officer decided to make an example out of Leo to show the board she was slashing operational overhead. She called him into her corner office, smugly informed him his services were no longer required, and told him his contract was just standard boilerplate, so he wasn't entitled to a single dime of severance. She thought she was saving the company a few $100,000. Instead, Victoria Cole triggered an encrypted, legally ironclad ownership reversal clause that instantly confiscated OmniStream's entire intellectual property stack, turned their $2.4 billion logistics engine into an empty, useless shell, ground global shipping operations to a violent, screeching halt, and left the company's entire C-suite begging for mercy on their knees. This is the full, unfiltered story of how one engineer used a 2-paragraph contract amendment to legally hijack a multi-billion-dollar corporation's entire digital empire. Buckle up. This one is cold. This one is calculated. This one is 100% pure, concentrated justice. Let's look at the battlefield. 3 years ago, OmniStream's original tracking software was a total disaster. Ships were getting misrouted, millions of dollars in perishable cargo were rotting on docks, and the company's stock was plummeting. The CEO was desperate. He reached out to Leo, a legendary architectural contractor known for fixing unfixable codebases. Leo agreed to take the contract, but under one strict condition: he would use his personal, pre-developed proprietary automation framework as the foundation, licensing it to OmniStream. He drafted the agreement. He explicitly added **** Clause 9D, the IP reversal and infrastructure lien mandate ****. When Leo submitted the paperwork, the junior HR onboarding clerk barely opened the file. To them, Leo was just a line-item independent contractor. They stamped it, signed it, and filed it away in the digital vault. For 3 years, Leo worked tirelessly. He turned OmniStream into an absolute juggernaut. Their system became so efficient that their valuation skyrocketed to $2.4 billion. Then came Victoria Cole. Victoria was a corporate hatchet woman. She wore $4,000 tailored pantsuits, spoke entirely in buzzwords like synergy and lean optimization, and had a reputation for firing high-earning veterans to pump up quarterly profit margins so she could secure her executive bonuses. On Tuesday at 2:15 p.m., Leo's access badges suddenly stopped working at the turnstiles. 2 security guards escorted him directly to Victoria's glass-walled office on the 40th floor. Victoria didn't even tell him to sit down. She was swirling a cup of expensive organic matcha green tea, looking at him like he was dirt on her designer shoes. "Leo, I've been reviewing our vendor expenditures," Victoria said, letting out a condescending corporate laugh. "Your contractor rate is absurd. Effective immediately, we are terminating your retainer. We've already cloned your repository, and our internal team will handle the infrastructure moving forward." Leo remained perfectly calm. He adjusted his watch and looked her dead in the eye. "Victoria, my contract requires a 90-day written notice for termination, along with the full payout of the remaining project lifecycle fees. That comes out to exactly $420,000. Victoria smirked, leaning back in her leather chair. "Please, I reviewed your file. Your contract is standard corporate boilerplate. It's an at-will vendor agreement. You aren't getting a single penny, Leo. You have 30 minutes to leave the premises before security forcefully removes you." Leo didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look angry. He simply nodded, stood up, and walked out of the room. He walked out of the building, crossed the street to a traditional local open-air market, ordered a massive steaming plate of perfectly spiced mutton biryani, and took his time eating lunch, because he knew exactly what time it was. And at exactly 3 p.m., the digital clock on OmniStream's server network registered a major operational event. What Victoria Cole's arrogant review completely failed to realize was that Leo's contract wasn't standard at all. Under Clause 9D, The entire intellectual property license for the core routing matrix was strictly contingent on the company maintaining an active and non-breached retainer status with the architect. The clause explicitly stated that any attempt to terminate the contract without fulfilling the 90-day notice or the required termination payout constituted an immediate material breach. The penalty for a material breach: the global, exclusive intellectual property rights of the entire system, including every modification, update, and database schema built over the last 3 years, instantly reverted to the sole personal ownership of Leo Mercer. Furthermore, the clause granted Leo a universal legal lien over the hosting infrastructure. 3:01 p.m., an automated script compiled by Leo's private server detected the breach confirmation from the corporate registry. The script instantly revoked the digital licensing certificates. The core routing matrix didn't just shut down, it securely encrypted itself using an asymmetric 4096-bit key that only Leo possessed. Suddenly, OmniStream's global platform went completely pitch black. 3:15 p.m. in London, 400 delivery trucks pulled over to the side of the highway because their automated route manifests disappeared. In Singapore, a massive container ship carrying $80 million in high-end electronics was denied port entry because its digital clearing manifest was completely wiped out. In Chicago, 3 massive fulfillment hubs came to a grinding halt as every conveyor belt stopped moving. The entire global supply chain grid for OmniStream's enterprise clients was completely paralyzed. By 4 p.m., OmniStream's main corporate headquarters was in absolute pandemonium. Clients were calling in screaming, threatening lawsuits totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. The company's stock value was in a literal freefall, dropping 18% in less than 2 hours. Victoria Cole frantically called her engineering team into the server room. Just restore the backup. Override his encryption. The lead systems administrator looked at her, his face completely pale, sweat dripping onto his keyboard. We can't, Victoria. The backup servers are tied to the same licensing handshake. Legally and technically, Leo owns the code. He owns the database. He owns the entire platform. Right now, we don't have a company. We just have an expensive website that displays a 404 error. At 5:30 p.m., Leo was sitting in his apartment, working on a personal 3D modeling project, when his phone started buzzing uncontrollably. It was the CEO of OmniStream, Arthur Sterling. Leo answered on the 5th ring. Leo, thank God, Arthur shouted, his voice cracking with pure terror. There's been a catastrophic system failure, the entire platform is down. We need you to log in right now and deploy the emergency fix. We'll pay you double time. It's not a system failure, Arthur, Leo said smoothly. Victoria terminated my contract without notice and refused to pay my termination fees. Per Clause 9D of our signed agreement, your software license has been permanently revoked, and the intellectual property has reverted to my personal estate. You are currently running unauthorized instances of my proprietary code. There was a long, horrifying silence on the line. Then, Leo heard Arthur screaming at someone in the background. Asterisk. Get Victoria into my car right now. Asterisk 20 minutes later, a heavy knock rattled Leo's front door. Leo opened it. Standing in the dingy apartment hallway was the multimillionaire CEO Arthur Sterling, and behind him stood Victoria Cole. The arrogance was completely gone. Victoria's expensive pantsuit was wrinkled, her makeup was smeared, and she was staring at the floor, looking like she was walking toward a firing squad. Arthur stepped into the apartment, his hands raised in a gesture of complete surrender. Leo, please, we are losing $45 million every single hour this system is offline. The board is talking about liquidation. What do you want? Name your price. Leo leaned back against his kitchen counter. My terms are very simple, Arthur. First, OmniStream doesn't get a license anymore. If you want the software back, you're going to buy the intellectual property from me outright. The price is $25 million cash wired to my account within the next 10 minutes. Arthur swallowed hard, his jaw trembling, but he didn't even hesitate. Done. I'll authorize the wire from our corporate emergency fund right now. What else? Second, Leo said, looking directly at Victoria. I want a signed, notarized admission of corporate fraud and contractual breach from your legal department, accompanied by a recorded video confession from Victoria admitting that she tried to illegally seize a developer's proprietary property without reading the contract. Victoria gasped, looking at her CEO. Arthur, please. That will ruin my career. I'll never work in corporate HR again. Arthur turned on her, his eyes blazing with pure, unadulterated rage. You didn't read the contract, Victoria. You almost destroyed a $2 billion company because of your pathetic ego. Get on your knees and apologize to this man right now, or I will personally ensure the board sues you for every single dollar you will ever make in your miserable life. Victoria's knees literally buckled. She dropped to the hardwood floor of Leo's apartment, tears streaming down her face, weeping open apologies into her hands. 10 minutes later, the $25 million wire cleared into Leo's account. The video confession was recorded on Leo's phone with a shaking, humiliated Victoria reading a statement detailing her complete incompetence and malicious intent. Leo pulled up his laptop, entered the master decryption sequence, and transferred the IP rights over to OmniStream. Within 5 minutes, the global supply chain spun back to life. Victoria Cole was fired before she even left Leo's apartment building. Her recorded confession was leaked to an internal industry whistleblower network, making her completely unemployable across the entire tech and corporate sector. She now runs a completely abandoned lifestyle blog and handles low-tier virtual assistant tasks for less than minimum wage. And Leo? He took his $25 million payout and walked away from corporate consulting forever. He built a beautiful state-of-the-art digital art and game development sanctuary in his hometown, fully funded a clean water infrastructure project for an underprivileged rural community, and paid off the lifelong debts of his entire extended family. Today, he runs a private, highly exclusive independent development guild. And right there, in the main entry of his studio, etched into a massive plate of solid, industrial-grade stainless steel, is a quote that every single incoming corporate client has to read before they sign a single piece of paper. When an executive calls your contract standard, make sure your standards are lethal. Never let them borrow the machine if you don't own the gears. Leo Mercer. And that, my friends, is how one brilliant DevOps engineer turned a condescending HR insult into a $25 million corporate buyout, and made a power-tripping executive the ultimate, career-destroying warning sign for corporate suites everywhere. If this absolute masterclass in contract law made your justice receptors completely explode, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button for Tangled stories, slam a like on this video, turn on your notifications, and drop a comment below with the most satisfying contract loophole you've ever seen pulled off. Because on this channel, we don't just get mad, we get it in writing. I'm Brett, and I'll see you in the next one.